All right. So I am recording now. It's Thursday, January 19th. Cannot believe January is almost over. Crazy. And we have Ellie here tonight. She's going to talk to us about time management and organization, which is so important as a coach because, you're trying to do this along with being, if you have kids or if you have a full-time job, it's just you have to manage your time better and learn to say no to things. And so she's going to give us some of her best tips that she uses to stay consistent. So take it away. I'm so excited.
I hope I didn't disappoint anybody. But anyways, I'm Ellie, for those of you I have not talked to or met before. I have been coaching for a year and a half. And to sort of give you perspective of where I'm coming from in my daily life, I am a full-time medical provider in a clinic, and I also do a little bit of side work in urgent care, which, yay, I get to do a lot less of these days because coaching has taken over that financial burden, which is awesome. I'm the head of my household. My husband is a full-time stay-at-home dad, and we have 2 kids, so 2 and 4, so only a little bit of school. They're home most of the time. So my day usually starts pretty early in the morning, like 5:30, and that's the time where I get ready to go to work really fast and then drive. And what I started doing several months ago, which has worked really well for me, is because I commute, I leave earlier than I need to, and then I do my power hour in my car before I go into work. So I'm doing that at 7 in the morning maybe, and I get about a half hour at that point to do it. So then I work all day. When I drive, that's when I listen to my podcasts and my National Wake Up Call and my Team Hardcore calls, is to and from work. And I work all day. I keep the last 10 to 15 minutes of my lunch hour for reading personal development. So I like to read and listen. And then when I get home is when I work out. So I actually save that for the end of my day, which I seem to do a lot better with because I'm caffeinated. And then after dinner is kid time, and I do bedtimes or bath times and all that fun family parenting stuff. And then after I put the kids to bed, it's usually about 9:30, and I have about another hour to do the rest of my coaching duties that I need to get done or want to do. So those are most of my days. Weekends are a little crazier and I get a little bit more creative, but I have about 3 tools or ideas that I wanted to share with you guys that I thought were the most important for time management and just staying organized in general. And of course, they're super applicable to the business, but are very important for the rest of our daily life too. So the number one most important thing that you can do for yourself and for your business is schedule everything, like everything, and write it down. Or if you're into tech stuff, obviously you can do it that way too, but I'm super paper and pencil kind of gal. So I'll show you what I do, but basically what I mean is have a calendar for your month, for your week, for your day. Schedule everything, whether it's your workout, your personal development, your power hour, your everything. Schedule it. I'll show you what I kind of do. So I just probably can't read it, but this is just a monthly calendar, and I literally just print this from Google Images and write in the days of the month and photocopy blank ones because I'm also very cheap. So so I don't buy fancy planners, but whatever works for you obviously is totally cool. But what I do with this is at the beginning of the month, or even sometimes a month or 2 in advance, is I put down on there all the sneak peeks, all the team calls. I plan ahead all of my 30-day groups and my free challenge groups. And those are the first things I put down on my calendar. because then what fills in the mess of this, I don't know if you can see, but those are where I plan my posts. So I almost always I'm doing 3 posts a day to social media. And I usually plan those ahead at the beginning of the week so that when I have a group coming up and need to post about that, I can plan that ahead. When I have a fun family thing coming up that I know I'm going to want to put a picture up about that, I plan that ahead. And it makes my weeks go so much smoother when I think ahead that way. And obviously, I don't have them all filled in, but that's when the motivational quotes and whatnot go up. So that's what I do with my month at the beginning of my week, which is usually on Sunday sometime, is when I go ahead and, I don't know, this is like super shiny. This is the kind of the blank page from the Power 4 document, the Power Hour packet that came out and is on the team page. I use most of that, but this is the page that I use to I plan out my the posts that I want to do for the week, each week in my challenge group. I put ideas down for live video. I put any little thing that I need to remember for the week, like tonight, or to post in the health bet, that kind of thing, or just general things that come up in my mind that I know I need to get done that week for sure. And that really helps me to prioritize how I'm spending my time. So that changes obviously every week, but I usually try and do that on Sunday, so that way I'm organized for the beginning of the week, but sometimes it doesn't happen until Monday. So that's also how I can figure out what my most important 1 or 2 or 3 things are that I need to get done in that certain day. So if I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's Friday and I haven't written my little note to my grandma yet to send in the mail. I have to do this today because that's important to me. It's on there. So then I know not to let it go to the weekend or whatever it is. So I think it's really easy when you have this list that's like this long to get super overwhelmed and feel like you just have to keep going all day, every day, versus trying to think of or trying to decide 2, maybe 3 things that have to get that done that day. And when you're done with that, you can feel like you've fulfilled your goal for the day. The next part about scheduling your life is business hours. I struggled with this for a really, really long time. I kept thinking about it, and I knew I had to do it because I had to make sure that this wasn't interfering with my family life. And so, because I wanted to spend every waking moment doing it and planning for it and organizing it and everything, and that wasn't good for my relationship with Chris, or obviously having my kids see me on my phone all day. So business hours, if you haven't done it yet, you haven't decided what are going to be your business hours, do it and write it down and talk about it with your significant other and post it. I have mine on my fridge. Post it so that you are constantly reminded of when you should be working and when you should really not be working, because it's so easy to get wrapped up in this. But it's just as easy to let a day or 2 or 3 go by and not do anything at all. So keep it in the forefront of your brain, whether it's on the fridge or in your packet of stuff that you carry around with you. It's really important. I mentioned that I do my power hour in the morning, and I've read over and over again that most of us are the most productive earlier on in our day, and we're also the most creative. So if you're a nice person or a nighttime person, that's totally cool. That's when you should be doing your work. But most of us do better in the morning. So one of the things that I have found is super true for me, and maybe for you too, and you might just have to be a little bit more strict with yourself, is get the most important things done as early as you can in your day, because then you're not going to be stressing out about it. And that made a big difference for me for the whole power hour part, was to do that before work. So I could kind of just have that out of my brain and not save it for the end of the day where I'm super tired. You guys have heard of Eat That Frog, the book. If you haven't read it, it basically means doing that thing that's the hardest for you first and getting it out of the way, at least the thing that's hardest for you that will move your business forward, the thing that will be the most, have the most impact on your business or on your day or on your goals, and getting it out of the way first and doing that in the morning is a good idea too. When you have scheduled things, right? When you have things scheduled out, when you are really crystal clear on your priorities and you know your goals, whether they're short or long-term goals, it makes it easier to do this. But another thing that's really important in order to know how to manage your time is learning how to say no. And that's hard. It's really, really hard as women, especially. But I think the one thing that I have read that has really helped me with that and not to feel guilty about it is every time you say yes to something, you're always saying no to something else. And so if you know what your priorities are, if you know what your goals are, then knowing that saying yes to, I don't know, the neighbor to, I don't know, do whatever, if it's going to take away from your family time or your personal development time or the time that you need to be quiet with yourself, it's easier to say no to that and not feel bad about it. So learn how to say no and not feel bad about it. But that also requires you to kind of really clarify what's most important to you too. So it does get easier. It can, although it's never easy. Let's see. Oh, the last thing I want to say about this, like scheduling things, is also recognize when you have an opportunity for a little bit of productivity that maybe wasn't necessarily scheduled, like pockets, mom pockets. We talked about those a little bit before, or just pockets of time in your day that may come either routinely or as a surprise where you could use them to be productive, right? So, example, I was in the car waiting in line for the car wash yesterday, and I had both kids in the car, but for whatever reason, they were not needing me for like 5 seconds. And so I always carry around like my notes of like notes I take on calls, my folder that includes my power hour, power hours written out and stuff. So I grabbed my notebook and I read through the some notes on time management so that I could get some ideas of things that I wanted to say. Ironic, huh? Things I wanted to talk about with you guys. And literally I was in the car wash line for like, I don't know, 5 or 8 minutes, which probably would have felt like forever and a half had I been just sitting there or listening to the radio. But I was able to look through those notes and actually use that time to my advantage. So recognize times during your day where you might be able to be a little bit more productive. But I will caution you, if I have 10 minutes before I need to be in bed, I'm going to get this off my list, which then leads to this, to this, to this, to this. Like, don't do it. Don't limit yourself to one agenda item and then cut yourself off and go back on track with whatever else is supposed to be going on in your life, because that's when you're up like 2 hours past your bedtime. So don't do it. All right. So schedule everything and write it down. Number 2, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but seriously, people, focus, fortress around your focus, right? So that is so much easier said than done, especially if you've got kids or if you've got family or if you just have natural distractions that you can't like wall off from you. But a couple tools. First, know that multitasking does not exist. I'm pretty sure that this was first proposed to me by Shalene, and the idea that we're superhumans and can focus on more than one thing at a time is so not true. Our brain totally it goes back and forth between 2 or 3 items, and we never can actually give any one item or multiple items our full focus, right? We just think about one and think about the other, and we just can't do it. Sorry, men can't multitask, but neither can women. So realize that if you're trying to do 3 things at once, all three of them are going to take longer than if you would just do one thing at a time and focus on it till it's done. Now, if you're doing dishes and you can listen to a podcast or something, that's kind of different. But at the same time, you know, learning, depending on what you're listening to, you get way more out of it if you're writing it down at the same time. So granted, we have to do what we have to do. And if you're listening to this while you're washing the dishes right now, that's cool, because whatever works. But know that if it's really important to you to do a good job and not make mistakes and what have you, then don't try to do it at the same time as something else. The second thing is going back to the scheduling. One way to be able to focus on your schedule is to set alarms for yourself, whether it's on your phone or otherwise. And there's this idea too, to sort of create habits for yourself to stay on track, is thinking about if this, then that. If you've ever heard of that sort of idea, if you're doing this, then this should happen, or if you're in this place, then that should happen, and kind of making connections that way. I'm trying to think of a good example of that in my life, but you know, if I'm brushing my teeth, I don't know what I do, but it's it's another way that you can sort of create this predictable flow in your day. You know, if I'm in the car, I'm listening to a podcast. If I'm driving by myself, I'm listening to a podcast, that kind of thing. I keep going back to podcasts because I'm obsessed with them. But so yeah, anyways, if there's opportunities for that to like just hook up one habit with another, or something you have to do with something you can do to move your business forward or get things done, then you should be doing that. I'm curious how many people use the airplane mode or the do not disturb mode on their phone ever, like when they're doing their power hour. Does anyone ever do that? Tricky business. I don't either, to be honest, but I feel like after having two toddlers that don't stop talking, I've sort of created a little bit of a superpower to like block the noise out. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, Allison. So the ding, I don't even actually have dings on my phone because it's always off. My ringer and my dinger is always off. I never have my ringer on unless I'm on call for work. But if that's something that distracts you and you tend to like, you know, squirrel, turn it all off and do not disturb. Or if you're working on a computer, don't even have your phone. Turn it over so you can't see it. And that can make a huge difference on getting through that power hour, or when you're creating posts, or if you're doing your, like how I do my weekly schedule on Sundays. Oh yes, let me tell you this. I meal plan on Sundays. And if I try and do that with kids around, I totally screw up our grocery list and Chris gets so mad at me. Oh my gosh. So I have learned in that sort of situation that I either have to do that during nap time, or I had the neighbors have to be over and they have to be playing, or completely in a separate room. Hi, Ethan. He snuck downstairs. So, okay, can you go play with Dad? Sorry. Okay. So let me just check because I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Yes. Okay. So just know that you want to shut off any other dinger, buzzer person if you can. Hide in the bathroom if you need to go return a message so that no one's going to start talking to you, so that you can focus on that quick message for 2 minutes and then leave. The third thing that I wanted to mention is specifically about organization, has to do with tracking your everything. Tracking your invites, whether no matter what it's to, tracking your conversations, tracking your power hour activities. Again, paper, pencil type person. And I know, have done in the past other videos and trainings on tracking and on various options that are out there. But I think what it really comes down to is picking something that makes sense to you and then adjusting what doesn't work and keeping what does work. I don't know if you guys have all seen this packet, this Power 4 packet. I started using this a little while back, and I don't do the whole thing, but I've kept what's worked for me, which is tracking my power hours and my weekly goals, and I've left some other stuff out. That's what I use for the most part, but then I also am a big fat notebook girl. Does anyone else keep a notebook of stuff? I got a 5-subject notebook, and I used to use this for my power hour before, but now I have a section that I do for challenge group invites. I write down everybody that I mention it to. I write down when I mentioned it to them. I star them once they're committed. I write down when I need to follow up with them about it. I do the same thing for my free groups. I love this because when I talk to somebody about a group and I think they might join the next group, or they can't do in January but maybe can do it in February, I'll actually write them on the February list so that I remember them, that I thought of them, so I can go back and invite them in a few weeks. I go back to free group people that have done those. I track my business invites and when I invited them, and basically what I need, like when I should follow up with them for that too. So I carry this sucker around with me every day. I have it, I bring it to work, I bring it in the car, and I do the same thing with my power hour trackers too. So it'd probably be way easier if I was technology savvy and could just pull the trigger and put it on the computer, but I'm afraid I won't be able to access that at work. So shh, don't tell. Also, the last part I have about organization is about templates. And you hear all about templates because Laura posts about them frequently in a good way. And I love templates. Not that you should use word for word what she does, but you should create your own and save them on your phone. I do most of my messaging on my phone. And so in my notes section, I have templates on there for bunches and bunches of stuff. And obviously, if you're a computer worker, you can do the same thing that way too. So it saves tons of time. And not only that, but it helps you not to forget important, not only things to mention when you're doing whatever you're doing, but also you only have to work it out once to make it sound better than maybe you would have done it before. I think maybe there was some feedback about, there's always the feedback asking somebody if they have any questions versus do you want more details, just little tweaks on how you word things. You don't have to remember all of that. Just template it and copy and paste it and adjust it for whomever you're talking to. So figure out a tracking system, adjust as needed, focus, and then focus more, and then turn your phone off and focus more, and then bond, engage your kids and focus more. Just kidding, don't do that. And schedule everything. So, holy crap, was that less than 30 minutes? It totally was. Yay. My kids need to go to bed.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I'm curious now, like if there's anything that you guys have been thinking about integrating for organization that you haven't yet, or something that maybe you heard that you wanted to do, because I'm kind of curious if there's any other fun ideas out there that maybe would help me too. But that's all I got.
I was going back to, well, like when you're talking about business hours, because I go in seasons of that. Because when we're together all the time, it's different for us. It feels like it's different for us because we're like with each other all the time, and so it's hard to set those business hours. But then you find yourself constantly on your phone or constantly checking things, and so I go in seasons with this where I'm really, really good about, no, I'm only answering messages between this time and this time. And then if it's not my time to answer messages, I don't even look at them. And it's very freeing to have that in your mind. Then you're not feeling like you have to respond immediately to people. So I need to get back to that because there are some weeks where it's better and some weeks where it's harder. So
I'm very up and down with it too. And maybe for you guys, what you need to do is schedule non-business hours. Like
Yes.
Don't, like between noon and 1, you can't look at your phone, and that might be easier to think about that way.
We have done that, but it's easy to fall out of that. So we just need to get better at it. Something else that you were saying, do you use Hootsuite to schedule your posts, or do you, no, you just go post?
I plan my posts by sort of type of post, but I very rarely have been so far ahead of the game that I can like write them out and schedule them, because I'm kind of a emotional poster, maybe. I don't know what the right word is. Yeah. I think it's great if you can get that organized and do that. And I think some people have to, because of the type of work they do or what have you, but
yeah. Feel free, you guys, I muted everyone, but if you have a question or you want to talk, feel free to unmute yourself. Something else you were talking about was that if this, then that, and there's actually a website out there. Did you know that? She talked about it.
I think so.
I've played around with it, and it's actually really cool. Like it plugs in formulas for you, so you can plug in, and it can connect to all of your technology. So what you do, it's like, what is it? If this, then that. So it's IT. I don't even know. Just Google if this, then that. But you can plug in, like, if I take a screenshot on my phone, save it in this photo album separately. So then you have like an album with all of your screenshots. It can get super detailed, and it's actually really cool. Like, if I get an email from this person, then move it to this folder or do something with it. Like, you can, it's crazy.
Huh. Oh, yeah, that is very specific.
Yeah, it's really specific. And it was Shalene that I think she talked about it on a podcast, because she uses that, and it sends her notifications and like alarms on her phone to remind her of certain things. So, but it's like, she always talks about when you want to create habits, you have to create triggers in your brain. And you were talking about like when you're brushing your teeth, like I thought of, then I'm doing squats, or like, how people like do the, they squeeze in those little workout. I don't do that, but some people do.
Well, it's funny, because as I was saying that, I'm thinking to myself, well, then you're multitasking. Yeah, like, wait a minute, I just said multitask. Yeah. But I'm totally the person that if I'm brushing my teeth, I'm usually, like, at night, I'm also reading a book. Like, I do this.
And she also says you can do one mindless task with something else. Like, and I am guilty of the washing dishes while listening to podcasts or listening to calls, but I keep a notebook close by so that I can dry my hands off really quick and then write something down. It takes a little longer, but it works.
And that's the point. It takes both of them. It takes longer, right? But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And then templates. Yes, that is so important. I use that, and I've just started saving them I started using Asana again, and I've been creating little, like, this is what I always say about the 21-day fix when someone asks what it is, or how I explain what it is. And then I save like all of my links, so I can just, when someone wants to buy it, like for the program or the challenge pack, like I automatically save those in there, so I know I don't have to go search for it. I can just go grab it, and it's quick. So you can do that for like every single program that you talk about the most. There's probably a handful that we talk about the most. And then for like welcome emails and the emails that we send to our leads, we have those. If you use Gmail, they have like a canned responses feature. So I forget how it works, but when we go in to compose an email, it's a blank email. You can actually, you might have to turn that feature on somehow, but I forget how we did it. But it's basically, you open it up, put the email address in, and then down in the right-hand corner in Gmail, there's a little arrow, and you can click that, and there's a line item for canned responses, and then you can have kind of like a template for every single email that you send to people, and name it something, so then you don't have to go searching for it again. You know, it's just really easy. You just click the button and it automatically like repopulates. So I use that a lot.
So I do something similar, but I just save drafts in my draft folder.
That works too. Yes, same amount of clicks probably. It just but yeah, such awesome tips. And I love how you talked about you have to schedule everything, and how you are so disciplined with, like, you know, I'm sure some days are easier than others, but how you have specific things that you're doing every minute of the day. And that's totally what you have to do yes, you have to have downtime and take some time off. And then I know you do, but if you have goals, you gotta focus and just do it.
Yeah, after listening to Elizabeth Gilbert's webinar and about how her goal is to have women that relax, I was like,
yes.
Dang it, another goal. No.
But it doesn't even have to be big things. Like, to me, relaxing is turning on my favorite TV show at the end of the day, and that's my self-care. Everyone's different.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, guys. Well, thanks for jumping on. And thank you, Ellie, for sharing all of that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very helpful. If no one else has any questions, we'll let you go, but have a great night and a great weekend.
Thank you, Ellie.
Yeah.
Bye,
Happy
guys.
Friday.
Yes. See you later.
Thank you.